In tonight's headlines, family members of a mentally ill man who was shot dead by the police last Sunday questioned the way the officers have handled the situation. A demerit point system designed to curb poor behavior among taxi drivers comes into effect today. And father of non-invasive prenatal testing, Dennis Lo, may become the sole candidate for the president of the Chinese University of Hong Kong. Family members of a 38-year-old man who was shot by police in North Point last Sunday visited the police headquarters, holding a photo of the deceased and seeking answers and justice following the tragic incident that left the man dead after allegedly attacking his family. The incident unfolded when officers responded to reports of a disturbance, finding the man armed with a kitchen knife and scissors. Despite attempts to subdue him, police ultimately fired, striking him in the chest. He later succumbed to his injuries. His wife recounted the harrowing events of that night when her husband assaulted her and her mother-in-law. Fearing for their safety, she locked herself in a room and called the police, urging them not to use deadly force. She recalled hearing police order her husband to drop his weapons, but just 2 minutes later, they opened fire. When she emerged, she found him bleeding profusely, yet no immediate assistance was provided by the officers, who instead asked her for his identity card. I called the police because I trusted them. I never expected this would happen. They could have used pepper spray. My husband had emotional issues and had never acted violently before. Now this thing is haunting me. I can't sleep or eat. I feel sorry for him, she said. The deceased brother echoed her concerns, asserting that police could have aimed for non-lethal areas, questioning why they shot at the chest. Both family members have filed a complaint with the Complaints Against Police Office and plan to provide further statements this Wednesday, demanding accountability. Jeremy Zhu, Cable News.
A new demerit point system targeting misbehaving taxi drivers takes effect today. The taxi driver offense point system covers 11 behaviors that negatively impact taxi service quality, including overcharging, soliciting, and refusing to issue a receipt. Each offense carries 3 to 10 points according to the severity. If taxi drivers reach 10 points within 2 years, they will be required to attend and complete a taxi service improvement course at their own cost. Following these infractions, passengers only need to report the taxi driver's name, license plate number, and the details of the incident. This woman said some drivers might refuse to take her after they learn her destination, making excuses like changing shifts or knocking off. I think this system will at least provide some deterrence, and I don't want to meet these misbehaving drivers, said this woman. This mainland visitor said the new system may not be too useful for tourists because it would be troublesome for a visitor to call to file complaints. I will probably just talk to my friends or post it on social media, she added. This taxi driver was not worried about committing an offense. For instance, when there are 2 routes available, he always clarifies with passengers which one they prefer to avoid misunderstandings. While this driver was concerned that the demerit systems may more or less have some impact on drivers, because arguments often arise when negotiating with passengers about the rules, and it is difficult for drivers to think about the whole route within 2 to 3 seconds after a passenger got into a taxi. Under the new point system, taxi drivers who accumulate 15 points or more will face a 3-month suspension from driving taxis, with subsequent infractions resulting in a 6-month suspension for each additional offense. Evelyn Bai, Cable News. Leading molecular biologist Dennis Lo, an associate dean of the Chinese University of Hong Kong, has reportedly been recommended to be the sole contender to become the president and vice-chancellor of the university. Lo has been working with the CUHK for 27 years, responsible for research affairs. The 60-year-old also serves as the director of the Li Ka-shing Institute of Health Science, focusing on genetics, medicine, and DNA testing. He is known for pioneering non-invasive prenatal testing and diagnosing various genetic disorders, earning him the title of Father of Non-Invasive Prenatal Testing. In addition to his achievements, Lo was elected as an academician of the Chinese Academy of Science last year. The current president, Rocky Tuan, announced his resignation earlier this year and will step down 2 years early in January 2025. According to the existing procedures, a candidate will be endorsed upon receiving support from 75% of the council members.
Financial Secretary Paul Chan expected that the SAR's interest rates will likely follow a similar trend as the United States after the Federal Reserve's half-percentage cut last week, although the speed and extent of adjustments will depend on local capital flows and market condition. Writing in his weekly blog, Chan noted that while global central banks are on the trend to slash rates, giving a boost to the asset markets and business environment, local market sentiment is also on the rise, with the Hang Seng Index rebounding to an over 2-month high, whereas the total trading volume on Friday reached the highest level seen in nearly 4 months. Meanwhile, the funds raised through initial public offerings so far this year in the city has exceeded last year, ranking 4th globally. With around 100 companies preparing to go public, many aiming to raise over $1 billion US, companies that recently listed have secured over $20 billion US in follow-up financing. Additionally, total bank deposits in the first 7 months have increased by approximately 4%, reaching $16.8 trillion. Chan emphasized that as investors' risk appetite rebounds, there is a need to explore broader and more diverse funding sources. He referenced the recent Beijing-Hong Kong Economic Cooperation Symposium, which facilitated about 170 mutual investment projects worth approximately 42 billion yuan. Looking ahead, the financial chief plans to strengthen promotion and cooperation in various markets to invigorate the SAR's capital market. Currently in Europe, Chan will meet with business leaders in Madrid and London, and later this month, he will lead a delegation to the Middle East to explore collaboration opportunities. Jeremy Zhu, Cable News.
A local think tank urged the city to expand its footprints into the Southeast Asia and Middle East markets to decentralize risk after an economic transformation and prompted the SAR to restore its international fame, which was severely damaged following the 2019 social unrest and the pandemic.
中國係非常之係而家密切同東盟發展緊呢個貿易
Taking to the airwaves, our Hong Kong Foundation Chairman Bernard Chan said, China is closely developing trade relations with ASEAN and the Middle East, since many mainland enterprises are diversifying their risks and going global due to geopolitical tensions. This presents new opportunities for the city's companies to ride on their advantage and assist mainland enterprises in going global. Separately, while Hong Kong is facing waves of new challenges, including foreign smears and negative media coverage, the former Executive Council convener said the city needs to create reasons for people to come back and see for themselves.
Another things that we need to work on is how to help to promote the Hong Kong international profile, which is severely damaged after our 2019 social unrest plus the 3 years of COVID. Many people outside of Hong Kong still have a very negative impression of Hong Kong. So we need to perhaps bring this right message to them. Many of them hasn't had a chance to come back to Hong Kong. So we need to give them reason to come back to visit, because I'm sure once they come back and see for themselves, they can then determine what's the future for Hong Kong.
Meanwhile, Chan realized that while it is difficult to change a country's stance, exchanges among community organizations remain important on non-political issues, such as cultural exchange or sports, adding that the think tank pledged to leverage its content-rich platform to facilitate interactions. Evelyn Bai, Cable News. Several choirs and symphony orchestras gathered together for a 1,000-people chorus performance as part of the 75th National Day celebration events. Members were from various places, including Hong Kong, Macau, Guangdong, as well as representatives from Chinese choirs in the United States, Germany, and Australia. In front of the iconic Victoria Harbour, they performed classic songs such as Yellow River Cantata, Below the Lion Rock, and The Pearl of the Orient. At the scene, some dancers dressed in traditional Chinese costumes for a dance performance. The event was organized by the Hong Kong Youth Symphonic Orchestra charity, celebrating the 75th anniversary of the founding of the People's Republic of China.
U.S. President Joe Biden highlighted concerns about China's increasing military assertiveness during an annual summit with 3 Indo-Pacific leaders, saying it is a way for Beijing to probe the region during a chaotic period. The Quad Summit, hosted in a high school in Biden's hometown of Wilmington, where the outgoing U.S. president used to attend some 60 years ago, saw the presence of Australian Prime Minister Anthony Albanese, Japanese Prime Minister Fumio Kishida, and Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi. The focus was on strengthening Indo-Pacific strategic cooperation. It is likely the last gathering of the Quad leaders before the transitions in Biden's and Kishida's leadership. Biden noted that China's actions represent a change in tactic, not a change in strategy, emphasizing the need for continued diplomatic dialogue to prevent conflict despite ongoing competition.
We believe Xi Jinping is looking to focus on domestic economic challenges and minimize the turbulence in China diplomatic relationships, and he's also looking to buy himself some diplomatic space, in my view, to aggressively pursue China's interest.
The leaders issued a joint statement concerning the wars in the Middle East and Ukraine, condemning North Korea's nuclear weapons development and missile tests, viewing them as significant threats to international peace and stability. The summit, which was the 4th in-person meeting between the leaders of the 4 nations, concluded with several key outcomes, including an inaugural joint Coast Guard exercise next year among the Quad nations and an $150 million commitment to collaborate on reducing cervical cancer rates in the Indo-Pacific region. Jeremy Zhu, Cable News.